Okay, so here's the next step we want to start thinking about, and it's really that, hey, we're doing all sorts of framing, we've got a lot of layers of information here about how the walls and how it's all going to go together. We want to start actually having a little bit of control now about like how we go through and create the different views and sort of show what it is we want to show in all the different views, so we can start to see how this thing is assembled and really kind of make it appear the way we want it to. And here's what we got to do in terms of really starting to think about that. If you think about all the different views that are going to that will be necessary to sort of illustrate the sequence of building something from like start to finish, there really are a lot of what I'll call like what is it? It's like duplicates of the view that are really kind of set to different points in time. For example, this might be sort of a fantastic view of really a nice axonometric of the overall house. And what we want to do is start thinking about really how it is that the different elements show up here and maybe build the house in this view. Yes, Ryan. Okay, can you tilt the Elsinite walls? Sure, let's go ahead and try that. And then we'll go ahead and we'll do that next piece. So here's this Elsinite walls. Is that how you pronounce it? Well, Elsinite. Okay, and basically they're here. Is it? Do they tilt at like a 10 or 15 degree angle, or what do they do?
Okay, they sort of tilt out so from bottom to top it's like a 5-degree tilt.
Okay, they sort of tilt out so from bottom to top it's like a 5-degree tilt.
Beautiful. Okay, let's show you how you do that. Here's the deal. If we want to do walls.
Beautiful. Okay, let's show you how you do that.
That's actually one of the hard things that Revit doesn't like to do.
Here's the deal. If we want to do walls and we want to have them tilt, that's actually one of the hard things that Revit doesn't like to do out of the box. It likes vertical walls, and it's really happy about that. If we want to go through and have walls that tilt, we're going to actually do something a little bit strange, but it'll work. And that is, and the corner is a triangle. Of course the corner is a triangular piece, just to make our life difficult. But that's okay. I'm not going to be too floored by that. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to go through and actually create something which they call a form, just a mass form that'll let us go through and start sort of wrapping walls to it. And that form will be able to kind of stretch and give it that 5-degree kind of tilt. But and then we'll attach walls to it that are sort of following that tilt that's in the form. So you can almost think about this like making either a dressmaker's form or a concrete form, where we're creating the form first, and then we're just kind of slapping material to the side of it. So here's how that works. If you go to the Massing and Site tab, okay, so Home, go flipping on over to Massing and Site. Okay, we can now go through and basically create something called an in-place mass. So very much like our in-place modeling. And with in-place mass, what we're going to do is actually go through and it's going to say, oh, well, I need to show the masses.
Go ahead and call this my tilting walls 1.
No worries. I'm going to go ahead and call this my tilting walls 1.
We're going to start by just drawing something.
Okay. We're going to start by just drawing something. And as we draw, I'm going to start by drawing sort of a rectangular shape. In terms of where to put this, what level is that level that we're looking at right now?
Okay, I know how to map to a mass and do that now that I know what to do.
Okay, I know how to map to a mass and can do that now that I know what to do. That way you don't have to go through all. Okay, great. So, I'll just blah, blah, blah. Yeah, basically for the tilting walls, yeah, okay, that's fine. Yeah, so that's really the gist of it is really, it's that whole thing about the mass, and then if you tilt the walls of the mass, yeah, then you can sort of wrap that to it. Actually, just, what level is it? Let me just do a real quickie, and then just to give people a sense of this, because I think it's actually a good lesson for most people too. Like, what level is that are we on right now?
Main level, excellent. So what we're going to do is basically draw something.
Main level, excellent. So what we're going to do is basically draw some sort of mass here at main level. I'll choose that mass. I'll say make a solid form out of it. I can stretch up. And then what's going to happen is, to make that sort of tilting wall, what I'll do is I'll stretch this one out like this. And then I'll grab this other line over on this side and stretch it out like that. And what I've actually created now is something that tilts out not quite 5 degrees, but sort of the right sort of idea in both directions. It's going to form the corner, right? That's just a big old mass right now. It's not really doing anything except waiting to accept a surface. What we'll do then is say massing in sight, and we can make a wall out of that surface. What we're going to choose is basically, where did you go? There it is, Elsenite right there. Choose the wall type. I'll make it on this wall. I'll make it on that wall. And what have we done there? All we've done is really, we just sort of stretched some sort of material over that, like a 5-degree tilt going out in 2 directions. And that's the gist of the principle. It's really, you can go ahead and put that in there. Once you put that in there, we can take out the other ones, the straight ones. Or what it can even do is just like, hide the mass, and all we'll have now is those sloping walls instead. So that's the general principle.
That's actually a really helpful one for how you can actually.
Okay, so good question. That's actually a really helpful one for a lot of people to think about how you can actually make a sloping wall, because there's really no easy way to do that other than doing it with the masses. And there's that sloping piece of glass.
Let's go back to this
Beautiful.
issue of views.
Okay, let's go back to this issue of views and thinking about the views and how we actually want to start going through and controlling things.
I got my big axon view here, and I want to start.
So let's kind of think about this. Okay, I got my big axon view here, and I want to start kind of building up the house element at a time.
If we take that basic.
So here's what you can do. If we take that basic view, and let me call this, I'm going to just duplicate this.
Whatever it is I want to do it.
And I can crop it, whatever it is I want to do to it.
I want to go through and present this. There's my crop.
And however we want to go through and present this. There's my crop.
View that sort of has kind of the viewpoint.
I want you to sort of set up one view that sort of has kind of the viewpoint and sort of what you like about it for presenting it. And we can do this in the floor plan views or the 3D views. It's going to be the same basic principle.
Let me go ahead and call this my axon.
Okay, and with that one, let me go ahead and call this my axon. I'll call it my base view, because this is the one that I'm always going to keep on duplicating.
So what you can do is as follows. You can say, okay, let's duplicate that view.
So what you can do is as follows. You can say, okay, let's duplicate that view.
Now we got another one that's copy of that axon base view.
Okay, now we got another one that's copy of axon base view. Okay, and in this one, I can basically start hiding different things. Okay, and it's going to sound kind of ugly, but what you can do is I can go through and do this with visibility and graphics, or I can do it by hiding individual elements. For example, if I know that I really don't want to see anything except the topo,
Let me go ahead and I'll
just so I can get started,
grab all of those.
let me go ahead and I'll basically grab all of those guys,
Except for the topography.
and I'll turn them all off, except for the topography.
That's the topo alone.
Okay, that's the topo alone.
Let me call this step 1.
Axon, let me call this step 1.
Let's go ahead and duplicate this view.
What I can then do is go ahead and duplicate this view.
Axon step 2.
Let me rename that Axon step 2.
And in this view, you decide what you want to show. So in this one, what I'm going to do is say,
And in this view, you decide what you want to show. So in this one, what I'm going to do is say visibility graphics.
and I can decide really what I want to add in here. Whether
And I can decide really what I want to add in here, whether it's the walls or the floors or whatever. But now, this is going to be sort of an inefficient way of doing it, but it'll get us started. Then I'll show you a better way of doing it.
adding things in.
Okay, so you start adding things in here, but I don't necessarily want to see all those walls.
The wall seeing now. Like,
So I can start thinking about how can I only show the walls that I want to be seeing now? Like maybe I only want to be seeing,
I can do that. Maybe I only want to be seeing all the things that are really at the first floor level or something.
go ahead and do that. Maybe I only want to be seeing the things that are really at the first floor level or something like that.
Do that. I could go ahead and try just hiding different
So different ways I can do that. I could go ahead and try just hiding different things.
hide. Hey,
Okay, so I can hide them sort of based on the type. I can hide them. I could do, one thing I could do is turn on the section box. That's sort of another kind of nice way of doing this, where I could try to like just sort of cut off the top of the house and only see things like that. But you probably are going to want to start thinking about things in terms of like different ways of showing and hiding things and being able to control that with a little more detail. And I'm going to show you there's really kind of a two-step process. The general principle we want to think about is how we can set up a view filter. And then out of that, we're going to go ahead and think about how to set up a filter that's very, very smart about controlling these things. So let me kind of give you a sense of where we're going, and hopefully this all makes sense. It's going to be a long way around, but it'll be very powerful in the end.
So really what I want to see is the foundation.
So for example, if I have this thing where really what I want to see is the foundation, like 6-inch concrete walls, and only see those or something like that, what I can do is do something like this. Every view not only has visibility graphics based on the model categories, you can actually go through and set up filters. And what are filters? Filters are really just database criteria that'll let us control really what is visible and not visible. So for example, I could set up a filter based on, let me go ahead and I'll make a new one here. I'll just duplicate this and call it, foundation walls. And I'll basically say that it's going to be based on the wall category. And I'm going to filter. And I'm going to say that, let me find the family name. Is it the family name? I think it's the family name. Or is it the type name? I think it's the type name. Does not equal to, or contains, or does not contain. Let me try foundation in here. Let me see if that's actually going to apply to anything. Okay, I'm always trying to figure out basically, is it type name or family name or assembly name? I got to figure out what the right description is in terms of this, but we're going to basically set up some criteria. Go ahead and add a filter, let me add the foundation wall filter in there. And let me try turning off the visibility of those things. Okay, that actually did do the right thing. So here's the deal. I can go ahead and set up a bunch of different filters based upon this notion of, let me kind of just, we'll choose that filter. Let me edit the filter. I can set up all these different filters, controlling very smartly kind of which things are shown based on like, different elements. In this case, or properties of the elements. And in this case, what I did was I set up something does not contain because I was basically going to turn off the visibility of different things. I can do it the other way where I do it in a positive sense where I say, choose the things that do contain this and then make them visible or not visible. I can kind of, just really choose either way to do it. Now, let me pause right there because that's the general principle, but you're going to realize that's really pretty ugly as a way to do it. So I'm going to teach you a better, more efficient way in just a second here. But let me just kind of pause on this issue of filters and see if that sort of resonates. People can kind of handle the idea of a database filter that'll control what we can or can't see. So let's pause there for a second. How are we doing on the notion of a filter?
Exactly. Now, there actually might be an intermediate stage where the ground is excavated further, and then they get...
Exactly. Now, there actually might be an intermediate stage where the ground is excavated further, and then they get backfilled, and then we'd almost need a separate sort of object. We need sort of the ground that's excavated object, and we need sort of the backfill object really as a separate element to come in there, or even, and add it back in there. So, no, you're right. So, no, it does get complicated to go ahead and really do this nicely, but you really have to kind of think about breaking in all the different elements and how you kind of control that.
So, are we generally good on the notion of there being a filter?
So, are we generally good on the notion of there being a filter to control what we can see in a view? Because if you like that general notion, I'll tell you a way to how we can sort of extend that pretty quickly to go ahead and be very general. Because you might imagine that setting up a filter for all these different types of elements is going to be a very big pain very quickly.
Just give me a little virtual nod if you're feeling pretty comfortable and kind of keep on going.
So just give me a little virtual nod if you're feeling pretty comfortable, and we can kind of keep on going because I don't want to overwhelm it.
It is. It's going to be the program sequence. That's the way we're really going to start to think about it.
Yep, and it is. It's going to be the program sequence. That's the way we're really going to start to think about it.
Or, actually, it's kind of the same as a program. I think we're going to go that way. No?
Or,
We'll see how this goes. Okay.
actually, it's kind of the same as a program. I think we're going to go that way. No, we'll see how this goes. Okay, great.